So normally I don't do this kind of videos because I'm more focused on creating tutorials and such, but something happened this week on the open source community and I feel that it's important to talk about it. So like 2 days ago I was wasting my life doom scrolling on Twitter when I saw a tweet. This post was exposing a GitHub comment made on a really important open source library. And I'm going to literally quote it: "Open source is dead. Long live capitalism. You should have said 4 years ago that you intend to require a subscription for Volar so nobody will use it." But before I give you my personal opinion about this, I don't want you to be biased, and I'm just gonna drop you some facts about open source in general, and also provide some context about the whole situation. So if you ever work with Vue, you probably have used the language tools. Language tools allows you to be able to use Vue-related features of the language, like single-file components and such, in your IDE. In this case, in Visual Studio Code, for example. But something that I really want to highlight is that both libraries, Vue, language tools, and Volar, are completely free. Free. You don't pay anything to use those features. But the comment that I mentioned before, it comes from this thread opened by the author of both Volar and Vue language tool. It's called Johnson Shu. Please, sorry if I mispronounce your name, okay? So he states that, "Hello, I'm the author of both the Vue language tools and Volar, and I have been working on this Vue tooling for the past 4 years. Thanks to the support of companies like StackBlitz and many other sponsors, he has been able to work full-time on the development of the new released version 2.0 after 6 months of development, which I think is pretty impressive. So all the extensions and tools that they develop are completely free and open source. So it's important to highlight this again: free and open source. So he states that even if his work is sustained by the support of the community, currently the funding that they have for continuing this project, it only will last until October. So this means that he is not having a normal job like you and me. He's completely focused on these language tools for the open source community, and he was maintaining his own and his family by the funding of this project. But if he doesn't figure out, he will need to find a full-time job and temporarily leave open source. Because believe it or not, you don't get into open source to get yourself rich. And if you really think that you're gonna get rich by doing open source, I kinda have bad news for you. Believe me, people actually think you get rich by doing open source because I'm the maintainer of ThreadsES, which is a custom renderer for Vue, and I have an ecosystem to create 3D applications with Vue, and people often tell me that I'm actually getting rich with this project. So I'm gonna show you actually how much I earn by my sponsors. This is what ThreadsES earn every month from the sponsors: 15 euros. If I don't count the 71 that I have on my personal sponsors of other open source projects that I've been working on for the last, I don't know, 4 years. So yeah, none of us is gonna get filthy rich like Elon Musk level by doing this. We do it because we're passionate about creating the stuff and share it with the community. And if I really wanted to be rich, I will be probably dropping everything and working on a product or scamming people with crypto. But going back to the discussion that we have in the beginning, the things that you're gonna receive if you pay is an early access to new features months before anyone else. You can accelerate and designate an issue per month. That means that you have certain weight on prioritization and decision on the library, and the issue will be resolved or replied within 3 days. So an extra like guarantee support on issues or defects that you find. So these are the reasons why they are creating this Vue in official insiders. If we take a look of the responses in the thread, we have a lot of clarifications from Johnson explaining why it's happening and such. And this is the comment that we saw before. Of course, it has been downvoted and such by a lot of people. Also, there was some responses like future coders who may stumble upon this 3 years down the line. Take this wisdom from Gentle Kenny the bad guy of this saga, and a lot of more stuff. But what I want to highlight with this discussion is how it opened the necessity of talking about open source and what the real problem of open source is. To help us answer that question, I found some interesting statistics from market reports. This one is from Zipdo, it's from 2024, and it states that 78% of companies use open source software to build their own products and services, meaning that these companies are not actually paying anything to build their own products. They are paying the developers, teams, and such, but not the maintainers of the open source code. But they're still using it, which is fair. At the end, open source is using an MIT license, so it's free to redistribute without any problem, right? Another number that is really interesting is from this open source market data report from GitNux, okay? And I'm gonna drop down here a couple of things. So it correlates with the other one with the state that 78% of the business are using open source software, and more than 90% of developers rely on open source components in their proprietary applications. So these numbers are huge. 96% of applications have at least one open source component. So we can say that a lot of the things that we use out there that we pay for are actually built using open source. 68% of companies utilize open source software for competitive advantage. Of course, they reduce costs by not having to create inner source or like proprietary code, and they can freely use the open source frameworks to build their own stuff on top of it. But then the other side of the coin is that only 21% of open source maintainers are actually paid for their work. And it's true, at the end it's open source and it's supposed to be free, but that doesn't mean that the advantage that companies are having by using open source, they can sponsor these authors to maintain those projects over the run, because what you're interested as a company is that the things that you use to build your products are stable and they can fix the issues that you're having in a timely manner. Fortunately, I wasn't able to get more substantial numbers on how many companies actually pay for open source or at least contribute back to the authors. But it's fair to say that in the last 5 or 6 years, more and more companies are aware of this situation, and they're starting new initiatives like creator contributor funds or paying sponsoring back to the community by using GitHub sponsors and such. To give you an overall idea, think about your company and if your company is actually contributing to open source in a monetary way. So if you're a company or a developer working on one and you're extensively using open source code to build your own projects, please consider contributing back to the community and giving a token of appreciation to those authors working their off every day to maintain the open source community. Like the case of Johnson Chu. By the way, I'm gonna leave in the description the link for the sponsoring this author to continue working on the Vue language tools. I really hope that this video gives you all the tools and the context to actually answer this question. Please let me know what you think about open source and what the problem is on the comments below. And last but not least, let's never lose the empathy and respect to authors on the open source community.